Welcome. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties. We got those sorted out, and here we are. Come to you today with a haircut for the first time in months, and it feels great. I hope that some of you have been able to get out who haven't been able to do so and get a haircut. It just makes your day feel better. Anyway, today's real estate market is a wild one. I don't know any other way to put it. It's crazy out there. And the reason is we have low inventory and we have pent-up demand. We have a bunch of people who want to buy houses. They've been waiting to buy houses, and they want to buy them at low interest rates. I don't see the pent-up demand going away. Nor, unfortunately, do I see the low inventory changing for now. How long is this imbalance going to last? We don't know. Nobody knows. Is the market going to right itself and balance out to be in more equilibrium? Absolutely. We just don't know when. So there's way too many variables on the table. Things going on in our country right now that impact the economy, that impact people's jobs. And sometimes in an election year, I've seen it for as long as I've been in the business, every election year people have a tendency to pull back, hold off, and wait. So we haven't seen that dynamic from the buyers yet, but we may be seeing it from the sellers. And that may go on through November, December, who knows. Is some of the pent-up demand going to diminish as more and more people who lost their jobs or were furloughed or whatever, took pay cuts to keep their jobs, as they are unable to qualify for mortgages? Are we going to be seeing less of that pent-up demand and start to see some imbalance? Maybe, but we can't say for sure. What the long-term impact is, we can only guess. What happens if we see a spike in COVID again? How bad is it going to be? Is it going to be bad enough to shut down the state or curtail activities? Again, we have no idea. But it's essential that you keep your head in the game in the here and now. How can you make a living in real estate when you write 10 or 20 offers for a buyer and lose every one? That's really disheartening, obviously, to the buyer, but it's also disheartening to the agent. So I'm going to give you a few suggestions, starting with the buyer side, before we go to issues of highest and best. We'll talk a little bit about the buyers. First of all, I encourage people to stop chasing buyers. There are plenty of buyers out there, but they are a lot of work, particularly when you write multiple offers, show hundreds of houses to them, and you're still not anywhere close to getting a deal put together for them. Learn to focus on getting listings. And I've talked about this before. Every agent who's made a successful career in this business has said listings are the name of the game. It's a mantra from every top agent in the business. Listings are the name of the game. But if you insist on working buyers, I encourage you to establish your rules for working buyers, your parameters under which you're going to work with buyers. Mine is, as I've shared with you, come into the office. Now, with COVID issues, I haven't been able to do that. A lot of my conversations with buyers has been over the phone. But the things that I cover haven't changed. I am only willing to work with buyers who are willing to have the conversation about the buying process, to talk to them about what happens first. You get pre-qualified. You get your credit score in line. You make sure that you get that pre-qualification in your letter. You get your down payment in the bank. Even if it's going to be money gifted to you from a relative, you get the money in the bank. And then I go through the purchase agreement with them step by step so that they know when they find that perfect house for them, they know the questions that are going to be asked as we fill out a purchase agreement. I don't want it to come as a surprise at that time. That's not the time to try to explain a purchase agreement. The time to explain it is way before you even go out and show houses to them. John Englehart, I've mentioned him before, was with 5-Star and was trainer at another large real estate company years ago. And he asked me a question one day. He said, if you got a cage full of rabbits and you open the rabbit cage, which one do you go after? I thought about it and I said, I don't know. And he said, the slow one. You always go after the slow rabbit. Well, of course, that made sense, right? Well, why would you chase after a rabbit running away from you very quickly? You go after the slow rabbit, the one who is there and ready to make an offer on a house that has all of their information, all of their pre-qualification, credit score, down payment, everything all lined up. That's the slow rabbit. Make sure that you are qualifying your buyers and not chasing after fast rabbits. Stick with the one that is ready to buy, ready to buy now. Hang on. When you start to write an offer as a buyer agent, have you ever thought about doing a non-refundable retainer against your commission on your buyer's agency contract? You can do that. I had an agent call me and say, I'm really upset because I showed this person a bunch of houses and I ended up without a commission when the buyer agency contract expired. And my answer was, well, don't do that. When I was working in the commercial business, I always took a retainer against my commission. I had $5,000 upfront, non-refundable, and if we put the deal together in the next year, I will deduct that from the commission I'm paid. But I'm not going to go to work for free. I'm not going to go to work with the complete uncertainty that I'm ever going to see a paycheck. And in these particular times where getting a paycheck is as hard as I've ever seen it, in the bad times and the good, this is probably the hardest time I've ever seen it to get a paycheck, especially when you're working with a buyer. I would encourage you all to consider that your time is worth something and that you have that conversation. It's going to be a difficult conversation to say, I would love to work for you to help you find a home, but I need to be compensated for that. And so we're going to do a trade here. You're going to pay me something up front. I'm going to help you find a house, and then I'm going to deduct whatever you paid me up front against the commission that I get from the sale of your house. I know, it's a revolutionary concept in residential real estate. It's going to probably scare some buyers. My question is, do you want to work with buyers that don't care whether or not you get paid? I don't. I'll tell you the other thing that I do on my buyer's agency contracts. I always, in big letters, handwritten, include this contract includes for sale by owners and new construction. How many times have we had a buyer's agency contract in force and the buyer goes up to a FSBO or a builder and says to you, well, why should I pay you a commission when I bought this, I found it myself, I was driving around, you didn't help me. well, yeah, sure, you helped me with the other 50 houses you showed me, but not this one. And the way I explain it right up front is, and when they ask me about it, buyer asks me, I say, let me ask you, what do you do for a living? And let's say they say, I'm a truck driver. I say, okay. So your boss hires you to drive a truck and deliver stuff. And so at the end of the week, he's going to pay you so much money if you drive around, deliver stuff. And you go up to the pay window on Friday and say, hey, I'd like my paycheck now. And he looks at you and he says, well, you know, Bill, you did a great job. You worked hard. You worked your tail off. I can tell you. I can't appreciate enough how much you've done, hard work you've put in here. But we gave your check to Sam over there. Uh-huh. How would you feel, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? And they kind of get this light bulb that goes on in their head, and they go, oh, I see. I get it now. I understand. And so they'll sign a contract that says this pertains to FSBOs as well as new construction. The other thing, part of the reason that we want to have these conversations in person, or at least on the telephone or FaceTime or whatever it is to let them know that you are going to enforce the contract. That this is not something they can just cast aside if they want to. That there are teeth in the contract in the form of consequences. A lot of buyers just don't realize that they're signing a contract for 6 months to work with you to help them buy a house. It's going to help you get paid more often. Let me scroll down just a minute here. Oh, here's a simple one. Write better offers. Put credit scores in pre-qualification letters, as we've talked before. I like to have the credit scores right in the pre-qualification letter that I deliver to the other agent with the offer. Write better offers. I know that a lot of people are still of a mindset, buyers are still of a mindset, that they can write a full price offer and expect to win. That's not the case. And sometimes it is, but after they've lost 4 or 5 or 6 offers, it's time for them to get serious and understand that this isn't their parents' real estate market. This isn't 1978. It's not 1985. It's not 1992. This is 2020, and it is its very own, very, very competitive real estate market. So we have to adapt to that. Our buyers have to adapt to that. Write appraisal guarantees. In other words, buyer is willing to pay up to $4,000 more than the appraisal price if the appraisal falls lower than the purchase agreement price. So if you buy a house make a deal at $200,000 and the appraisal comes in at 190, and you've got an appraisal guarantee of $5,000 built in there, that means the seller only has to come down $5,000 from your purchase price in order to keep the deal together. Obviously, the buyer has to have cash to be able to do that, to make up the difference. So, but it's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful tool, clause to put in your contracts that will help you win more offers. Now, we're going to talk about escalation clauses real quick. If you're going to use an escalation clause, make it worthwhile. Only a foolish listing agent would recommend that a seller accept an offer solely on the basis of an extra $1,000. If you're going to use an escalation clause, make the differential $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, depending on the property value. How about this? Try a non-refundable earnest deposit. Again, not something that's traditional. But if you're working with buyers right now, you better be thinking outside the box. You'd better be thinking about different ways to win your buyer the home, because that's your objective. We've been raised in this industry to advocate for our clients, and that advocating for a buyer means getting them the lowest price, getting them a fair price, a price that's not over the appraisal. Is that really advocating for your buyer when you're in a fast-moving, rising value real estate market? No, you're not getting them the house. And you don't know where that rise is going to continue. So for you to make the judgment that you're doing them a favor, that you're advocating for them by saying you should never pay more than the appraisal price or the asking price, that's not doing them any favor. Again, we have to change our thinking. We have to adapt to changing conditions. A non-refundable earnest deposit. Let's talk about that. Imagine, for example, if you made an offer on a $200,000 house and you plonked down a $20,000 earnest deposit. Would that get their attention, by the way? But you also said, you know what? If we keep your house off the market for 30 days, 60 days, and we don't close on it, you get to keep $3,000. No questions asked. Would they feel more comfortable in accepting your offer versus somebody else's offer? You bet. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. Avoid getting into negotiations over, possession or possession time or the money, John Deere tractors, washing machines. None of that stuff matters. What matters is they win the house. Avoid short deadlines for the seller's acceptance. Again, I got a call over the weekend that the agent was going to put a deadline of like 10 o'clock tonight or whatever. In this particular case, I understand that they had already worked this out. But if you're putting short deadlines like that, you're torpedoing your own offer, because you're putting the seller in a position that they don't have to accept your offer. In fact, they might go, no, I'm not going to be pressured into it. I'm not making a decision tonight. I'll wait and think about it until tomorrow. And guess what? There might be 5 or 6 other offers by then. So be very careful about putting short deadlines because the seller is not required to jump through your hoops. Your offer will terminate as they consider it. And then you're out on the outside looking in. Let's talk about a little bit about listing agents and whether or not they are operating effectively. I'm sorry, not effectively, ethically. But before we do that, we're going to jump over to a question. There's two questions.
Relatively long, too.
Long questions. We'll see.
Sure.
Joanne Alaska had an escalation clause, went up to 5K above. We said the offer was 2K less, but above asking price. It was taking that the buyer was willing to go above and beyond rather than attempting to get it for $10,000 less. Okay, I'm not sure what the question is.
It's not a question.
Oh,
it's just
okay, just a statement.
Likewise, the other one.
As a buyer's agent, I'm not encouraging my clients to pay an appraisal deficiency. I would hate to do that, and then down the road they cannot sell our house. You're right. It's not just about today, but having a client for life, or not having a client for life because they went to a different agent who got them a house. Depends on the way you look at it. Are agents operating ethically? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If you have proof that an agent is acting unethically, report them. We cannot purge our industry of unethical agents by giving them a pass all the time. We have to police ourselves and our industry, or else this is going to continue and it's going to get worse. Are agents allowed to withhold offers for several days? You write an offer on Thursday or Friday, and all of a sudden you find out, well, the agent's going to hold offers until Tuesday. Can they do that? Only if the seller has signed a listing contract with that language in it and it has been posted on the MLS. An agent does not have the right to make that decision by themselves. They have to have the seller's permission in writing that that agent will hold all offers until a certain first date for presentation. And it has to be broadcast on the MLS. Both of those conditions must be there or it is not ethical. Can't be at the agent's discretion. If you think an agent has withheld your offer at his or her own discretion, by all means, again, report it. Can agents call for highest and best? Yes, in multiple offer situations they can. It is perfectly legal to do so. However, my question to you today is, should they call for highest and best? Many agents believe that calling for highest and best keeps a level playing field, so they make it a consistent practice. They do it with every multiple offer situation. And in my view, that's not the best thing for your client always, your seller. Sometimes you have to actually evaluate the offers and make recommendations. That's part of our job. What's in the best interest of the seller? Well, given a number of offers on the table, it may or may not be best to call for a highest and best situation. For example, here's offer number one. $200,000 cash offer, the asking price, no inspections, $10,000 non-refundable earnest deposit, closing in 15 days, 30 days free possession. Granted, that's a wild, crazy, strong offer. The other offers are conventional FHA, VA. They're all over the asking price by $5,000 to $20,000. Do you call for highest and best in that situation? Well, I wouldn't. I've got a cash buyer with a $10,000 non-refundable, 15 days, 30 days possession. I would never gamble that cash buyer for a VA buyer to jump through all sorts of hoops for maybe an extra 10 grand or even 5 grand. It's not a good bet. So it's our job to evaluate the offers that come in, not simply say, throw it back in the buyer's agent's laps and say, give me highest and best by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Look at the offers, consider the offers, talk to your sellers. If they want you to go back and say, call for highest and best, it should be their choice, not yours. So, highest and best depends on the situation. Angry sellers who demand the EMD. Well, one of the biggest problems we run into, most frequent problems we run into, are EMD disbursements. Arguments, seller wants it, buyer wants it, and then they end up in court. Well, the biggest reason that happens is neither the seller's agent nor the buyer's agent has actually explained to that seller or buyer what happens to the EMD if a deal falls through. We have to operate under Michigan escrow law when we have the EMD in our account. We are bound by Michigan escrow law, which is why we require a mutual release. It is a very rare occasion that we will override the need for a mutual release, and it has to be an extreme situation. We'll go through the 15-day letter process. We will turn it over to small claims court, or tell the buyers and sellers to go argue it in small claims court. It is a rare situation where we will, as a company, override getting a mutual release or a court judgment. A lot of times sellers are mad because they've been off the market for 60 days and it didn't close. But the buyer exercised all good faith. They did everything they were supposed to do, but for whatever reason, maybe a job pay cut back, who knows, that buyer got denied for a mortgage. And the seller says, I deserve to have that money. No, you don't. This contract says it's subject to a mortgage. And provided that the buyer acted in good faith, you don't deserve the money. Sorry, that's what it says in the contract. Seller's failure to disclose. Here's one. We found out some information prior to closing, just prior to closing. The inspections had been done, the appraisal had been done, and then all of a sudden some information popped up that was not disclosed by the seller. Well, that has to be disclosed. A new disclosure form has to be filled out and submitted to the buyer, which gives that buyer now a new 72 hours to 120 hours to bail out of the contract. So be very careful in explaining these forms and explaining the possibilities when you meet with clients. They deserve to know how the process works. Some buyers think that getting an EMD is like taking a product to Meijer for a refund. It's not. Buyers and agents have to explain what happens to an EMD. We can't simply give them back their money. So that's quite a bit. We covered quite a lot of ground. Got a little bit started, but I think it was about 30 minutes. So any questions before I leave? I hope that helps. Not always automatic to go to highest and best. Look at the offers, consider them, talk to your seller about them. And then if they want to go to highest and best, by all means, do as they ask. So hope it helps, and I'll see you here next week. Thanks.